close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On this week's show we're reflecting on another win for the Cork footballers following their defeat of Leitrim last weekend, and we'll be joined by Denis Hurley, who was in Carrick-on-Shannon at the weekend.
We'll also hear from Fintan McCarthy, one half of the world lightweight rowing champions, as we edge closer to finding out which two Skibbereen rowers will be in the boat for the Tokyo Olympics later this summer.
Now Kieran, as I said, we're going to hear from Denis Hurley in a minute, but just to quickly get your own reflections on Cork's win over Leitrim. 2 wins from 2, no goals conceded, and a player like Carrick-on-Shannon seemingly settling back in very quickly. It's been a solid start to the league, hasn't it?
It's gone as well as Cork could have hoped for, to be honest. To have 4 points after 2 games, it sets them well on the path for promotion. Ronan McCarthy has talked about this magical 10-point mark that he thinks or he hopes will be enough to see Cork promoted from Division 3, and with 4 points on the board after 2 games, Cork are well underway to that. Like you mentioned there, Carrick-on-Shannon, he seems to fit it in seamlessly well. He got 1-2 last weekend in Cork's win over Leitrim. That was a 115 to 9 point win by Cork on their travels, which they need to do. They need to pick up points away from home, so a valuable win in that respect. A lot of positives to take from the game again. In terms of negatives, Ronan McCarthy was speaking afterwards just about that the Cork team wasn't as clinical and ruthless as he wants them to be. And I noticed that, especially in the game against Offaly the weekend before last, that Cork did butcher a couple of good goal chances. And if Cork do want to eventually get to those top tier 1, tier 2 teams, they'll need to be a lot more clinical in front of goal and put away their chances. But so far, it's job done. Downer coming to Páirc Uí Chaoimh this Sunday afternoon. There'll be a much tougher prospect for Ronan McCarthy's side, but they've nothing to fear so far, and they're living up to their tag as Division 3 favourites.
Okay, well, let's hear from Denis then, who was at the game. He caught up with Kieran a little earlier on.
Denis, you were in Leitrim last weekend for Cork's second Alliance Football League game of the season, and it finished a 115 to 0-9 win for Cork. That looks a convincing win on paper. Was it like that in reality?
I don't know if convincing would be the word you'd use, Kieran, but it was comfortable in the second half, definitely. Once Cork got the goal just before half time to go in leading by 1-7 to 3, they were never going to be caught, really. There were a few kind of moments in the first half where it was close and Leitrim nearly got in for a goal on a couple of occasions, and Cork were a bit open when they were caught in the counter-attack, that Leitrim could have made a bit more of a game of it, but you always kind of knew Cork were going to be able to push on and get the win.
It kind of was a potential banana skin in some respects, because the weekend before Leitrim got a good draw against Derry in Celtic Park, so it was a game that could have been a game where Cork could have slipped up. So they did well to come away with the win, or
absolutely, yeah. I think that is fair. Probably the draw against Derry just made sure that there was going to be absolutely no complacency on Cork's behalf, and it was something we'd asked Ronan McCarthy about after Cork had beaten Offaly, and he was at pains to point out that he's always making the case that, you know, he's well aware of these games, that he seems to be the one telling everyone about how difficult they'll be. And in that regard, Cork did the job from a professional point of view. Ronan McCarthy did say afterwards he'd have been happier if they'd taken a couple more of their goal chances in the first half. The Leitrim goalkeeper, Jim McKiernan, made 3 good saves that, you know, if Cork had been sharper finishing, he wouldn't have had a chance to make those saves. But even still, they were a level or two above Leitrim, and there was no sense that they were going to kind of let it slip.
Like you said there, Ronan McCarthy kind of afterwards, he said he wants Cork to be a bit more clinical, a bit more ruthless in front of goal. That's the second game in a row, Dennis. We're going back to the Offaly game as well, where Cork did miss a couple of good goal chances. What do you think that comes down to? Is it just the level of the finishing? Is it rustiness at the start of the season, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, it probably just is a bit of rustiness, and players just not having the confidence to back themselves and take that extra half second and just take a spot low to the corner. The keeper's not going to have much of a chance. Against that, you'd say they're making these chances. It is still only February. They haven't cost them a game yet, so it's something that can be worked on. You'd hope and imagine it will be worked on, and you wouldn't see it as a massive kind of problem at this time of year. You're just hopeful that as the spring moves on, that they will get a bit sharper and that they can make these chances count and show that they are, better than Division 3.
One man who did find the back of the net last weekend was Carrick-on-Shannon. He seems to have settled in so well, considering he was away from I suppose football for 6 or 7 years. He finished with 1-2 against Leitrim. What was his overall performance like, Dennis?
Yeah, he did very well. He links up the play very, very, very smartly. He's a clever player. He used his head. He set up a good goal chance for Cathal O'Mahony in the first half with a nice flick. Took his own chance fairly well, and he definitely has slotted back in, maybe even a bit more smoothly than people might have expected. He's still not, at his absolute peak, but he's definitely on the right track in that regard.
Another man on the right track as well looks like Shawn Porter, who's had his injuries over the last couple of seasons, but that's 2 games out under his belt in the last couple of weeks. And you were impressed by him against Leitrim?
Yeah, he's been named at cornerback for the 2 matches. He actually started centre back on Sunday, but Leitrim and Offaly both played sweepers, and you'd say fair play to Cork, rather than just sticking with a spare man at the back themselves. They have pushed forward to stay on the front foot, and Porter is the player that kind of steps up. He was nominated for Young Player of the Year in 2017 after playing much of his football as a forward that year, and Cork are definitely using him well, as a player who can help keep the opposition under pressure and make sure that Cork play most of the football in the other half of the pitch. Ronan McCarthy did say that it's important that they kind of appreciate that he still does need a bit of minding, and his return is being managed, I think, fairly carefully, and hopefully, by the summer he will be one of Cork's main men.
There's a short turnaround now to their next game. That's against Down at Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Sunday. It's so important that Cork do win these home games. Down will present a far tougher challenge than Offaly and Leitrim, but would you think, Dennis, with the 2 wins under their belt, and they seem to be kind of incrementally improving, that Cork should have too much for Down?
You would hope so, yeah. Down obviously come in on the back of a very good win over Derry, who were going to be under very much under pressure now to keep up a promotion charge. So they did Cork a favour in that regard, I suppose, last week. They drew the first day out against Tipperary, so Cork are the only team with 2 wins. There's no reason for them to go in anything other than confident. And now that they have the kind of the home win monkey off their back, that was kind of dogging them with a while, you would think that they should be able to kind of take it up another level. Down will be a stronger proposition, but they'll come to play football, and that might suit Cork as well. They mightn't have to work as hard to force openings, and they can go out and play a positive brand of football. Down will look to do that, and it'll give the Cork defence maybe a different kind of test to what they've had to, and that's no bad thing either. Because
Ronan McCarthy has mentioned this kind of magical 10-point mark a couple of times now, that he thinks might be enough for a team to win promotion from Division 3. So another 2 points this Sunday, move Cork onto 6 points, and a lot closer to that promotion spot.
Yeah, I think if Cork won on Sunday, it would take a very strange set of results from there onwards for him not to be promoted. So to get the kind of confidence boost of beating another promotion rival would be a huge thing, and just kind of just underline that they are going in the right direction, and all the signs are pointing to something like that happening.
Great stuff. Cheers, Dennis. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to all things sport in West Cork. Don't forget to pick up this Thursday's Southern Star newspaper, including our award-winning sports section with everything a West Cork sports fan could want. In shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world via www.thesouthernstar.ie/e-paper. The Southern Star and the Star Sport Podcast, number 1 for sport in West Cork.
Fintan McCarthy had a career year in 2019, landing his first world title and putting himself in pole position for a seat at this summer's Olympic Games in Tokyo. 2020 could be even bigger if he manages to secure a seat. We caught up with the Skib man recently, but Kieran, before we hear from him, what is the state of play with regards to men's lightweight double and the 5 Skib men vying for the 2 seats?
We've spoken about it, Jack, a good bit on this podcast. It's very intriguing what we have at the moment. So the Irish lightweight men's double has qualified for the Tokyo Olympics later this summer. It was Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy who were in the boat when they qualified at last year's World Rowing Championships. But just because they were in the boat when they qualified, they're not guaranteed to be there when it comes to the Olympics this summer. What's happening, the trialling process is ongoing at the moment, and there's 5 Skibbereen rowers battling for those 2 seats. So we have Gary and Paul O'Donovan. We have another set of brothers. We have Fintan and Jake McCarthy, and we've also Shane Driscoll, and they're coached by Dominic Casey and other Skibbereen men. So it's 5 Skibbereen Rowing Club rowers battling for the 2 seats. It's an incredible story. So over the next couple of weeks and months, there's more trials. There's a trial at the end of February, and then the big trial is at the end of March. And after that March trial, then Rowing Ireland will select their double for the international season. So that's the 2 that they're going to put forward to compete at Rowing World Cup 1 and Rowing World Cup 3. The likelihood is that whatever pairing they settle on after the March trials, that will be the double that goes to the Olympics. But let's say whatever 2 they pick don't perform as well as they want to at the Rowing World Cups, they can retrial again and mix it up. So there's no guaranteed cert until they confirm their boat for the Olympics later in the summer. Important to note too, Jack, that it's 2 men in the boat, but there will be 1 sub. So out of those 5 skib rowers, 3 will get to go to the Olympics, 2 in the boat and 1 as a sub. The sub, it's not a nice position to be in because you do all the training and you don't get your moment in the spotlight. Paul O'Donovan, as we've spoken here before, looks nailed on almost to have 1 seat in that Irish lightweight double. Touch wood, he'll stay injury free and he'll stay fit because he is the best lightweight rower in the world, and he's won 4 successive world gold medals. The man is just a beast. At the recent Irish Indoor Rowing Championships, he set another national record in the men's lightweight open category, beating his own record that he set in 2019. So an absolutely phenomenal rower, and he's still just 25. So that then leaves 4 other Skibbereen rowers battling for that other seat. If you're asking me now who to pick, I don't know. It depends on the trial. Fintan and Paul last year when they won world gold, they were really, really impressive. And they've only ever rowed 2 international regattas together, and one was a World Cup in Rotterdam where they won silver, and then obviously they won the gold in Austria. So that seems like a partnership and a combination with plenty of potential. We know that Gary and Paul in the boat is a phenomenal pairing. They won that Olympic silver in 2016 and they were world champions in 2018. Shane Driscoll is a very interesting one. Shane is a childhood friend of Gary and Paul. His house is literally just across the field from Gary and Paul's. They went to Leitrim National School together. Shane went up to heavyweight with Mark O'Donovan to try to get to the Tokyo Olympics that way, but that didn't work out. They were just too slow. So Shane has dropped back down lightweight. So he's a real live contender, and it would be a remarkable story if he ends up in the boat and going to the Olympics. So there's a couple of very interesting weeks ahead for the rowers themselves. It must be a very anxious time because they're training so hard. They're all kind of competing for those 2 seats, but at least we'll know by the end of March who's going to go forward to the international season, and that'll be a great indicator as to who will represent Ireland at the Olympics, and hopefully come the end of July when the rowing part of the Olympics is on this year, that Skibbereen will become the hub of excitement like it was 4 years ago. It's surreal to think that it was 4 years ago that the town ground to a standstill, and we had those dramatic and remarkable days in Skibbereen. So fingers crossed we have those again. But we do know for certain, Jack, that whatever combination Skibbereen supplies for that Irish lightweight double and that go to the Olympics, they will be favourites, you could say, for the gold. And they'll definitely be in medal contention, considering what they've achieved the last couple of years. And one of the men right in the mix is Fintan McCarthy, who we caught up with earlier. Fintan, 2019 was an incredible year for you, winning your first World Senior Rowing Championship medal. 2020 has the potential to be even greater again with the Olympics coming up this summer. Tell us, what's the update at the moment? What's the position? Because we know that the Irish lightweight double has qualified for Tokyo, but as yet we don't know the two people in those two seats.
Yeah, so there's 5 of us kind of training away in a group at the moment. I suppose we'd be kind of the main contenders, and then but it's open to everyone at the trials really, so we'll see. There's another set of trials in February, and we'll have our indoor championships coming up as well, so that'll be the next few kind of tests, and then I think the big ones in March, where that'll kind of decide a boat to go forward for the World Cups and see what happens then.
What's incredible about this story, Fintan, is that those 5 rowers are all from Skibbereen Rowing Club. There's obviously yourself and your twin brother Jake. There's Gary and Paul O'Donovan, from what they achieved, we all know, back in the Olympics in 2016, and there's Sheila Driscoll. Like, it's incredible that you 5 skib rowers battling for those 2 seats.
Yeah, it's really good, and you know, it's you feel really proud to be able to say that the 5 of us are all Skibbereen men training for the Olympics. So yeah, it's just I was thinking about it today actually. It's cool. It's like everything you train for when you're younger, and the lads are around then as well. So it's just cool to be training with them and yeah, going for the big one.
You're just back from a camp in Seville. How was that?
Tough. Yeah, they're always tough. It was a bit longer than usual. We were there for 17 days as well, so we were all kind of hanging to get home by the end of it. But yeah, it was good, productive. We were all kind of mixing up in different combinations, testing out, kind of getting used to each other. So we'll be ready for when it comes to selection, just to hop into different doubles and do some racing.
Talk us through a camp like that, Fintan. Is there a lot of hard physical training, or like you said there, is it kind of testing different combinations, or?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of both really. Our first camp this year, we kind of did most of our work in the single sculls, but that now Paul's kind of back in the mix after college. We were swapping around more in the double this camp, so we do kind of 3 days in with one guy and then swap again, and one of us would be in the single some days. So yeah, there's good variety that way, but yeah, we still have to do the training. So we're doing anything from 4 hours a day really.
Wow.
Yeah,
tough going, like
including weights. So
when you think now, like 2020 is obviously an Olympic year, but let's rewind back to 2019 for a second. Go back 12 months ago. Would you believe that you'll be in this position now, standing here with a world gold medal and with a great chance of representing Ireland at the 2020 Olympics?
I think I might have believed it. I don't know would anyone else have believed it, but yeah, it's nice to be in the position, obviously, and I kind of just not really thinking about how far I've come, but it is nice to think that I've come so far. And
how much did you improve in 2019, considering like obviously you did so well in the trials to get selected in that double with Paul? Then you think you won silver at the World Rowing Cup 3 in Amsterdam, and then obviously the gold at the World Championships in Austria. Could you see the improvement yourself throughout the summer and towards the Worlds?
Yeah, I think we really stepped on, myself and Jake, between April and the European Championships, because Paul was still in college at that stage, so we got to be the Irish double for a while, which was nice. Because we'd kind of been training towards the Europeans for the whole winter, so we really saw a big improvement. We did a small kind of regatta in Pedaluco in April in Italy, where we came third there, I think, and we were a good bit off the Italians, and then we were a bit closer to them as well, and we made the European final, which we were really pleased with. And then obviously there was another big improvement to actually get into the boat in, I think that was June maybe. And then obviously we had to improve again to go from silver in Rotterdam to win in Linz. So yeah.
And here you are now, kind of a couple of weeks or 2 months away from finding out whether you're going to be in that crew for the Olympics. So March trials are so important, and after that, Rowing Ireland will select the Irish double. That's probably a good thing that you'll know the combination so early in the year, so you'll get a full 4 or 5 months of training together under your belts before.
Yeah, well, I think the March trials will kind of pick the double for the season, and then there might be changes later if needed, but yeah. I suppose it's good that there's only a couple more months of anxiety left. So. And
how is Dominic Casey these days? With he's another Skibbereen man, kind of overseeing these 5 skip rowers. What's Dominic's form like these times?
Yeah, he's good. A bit, He's always he always wants us to be doing our best, and I guess he can get a bit stressed out as well sometimes. But I think once it's all sorted, it'll be just full steam ahead for Tokyo then. Yeah.
I think the author who wrote the book, There's Something in the Water, hit the nail on the head, because there obviously is something in the water in Skibbereen. So best luck for the season ahead, Fintan.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to all things sport in West Cork. Don't forget to pick up this Thursday's Southern Star newspaper, including our award-winning sports section with everything a West Cork sports fan could want. In shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world via www.thesouthernstar.ie/e-paper. The Southern Star and the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast, and before we wrap up today's show, Kieran's going to give us a breakdown of what's coming up in this week's sports section. But before he does, I'll also make reference to the fact that we have a Valentine's Day special in this week's
Mr. Lover here beside me.
So word looking out for all you coupled up and singletons out there who are looking for advice on what to do this coming Valentine's Day. So that's in this week's Southern Star. Along with the sports section, Kieran, what's in the sports section?
Before that, are you a fan of Valentine's Day, Jack? Or do you see it as one of those other days that's been taken over by card shops and the like?
To be honest, every public holiday has been taken over by card shops. And I don't even know if Valentine's Day ever was a wholesome public holiday. I think that was created by card shops. And to be honest, personally, it doesn't bother me if it makes some people happy, so be it.
So the lucky lady in your life, she won't be expecting a bunch of flowers on.
We're actually going to Killarney.
So
down your neck of the woods to a hotel in Killarney. I can't tell you, I don't know the name of it.
And they say romance is dead. Jack's bringing it back himself.
Yeah, sure, it's an excuse to go away, isn't it?
And go from one Jack to another Jack. What a segue there. Jack Crowley, a former Bandon rugby club man who inspired the Ireland under-20s to the opening Six Nations win last Friday night. He finished with 18 points, Jack did. He's a former Bandon Grammar School student too. He's from Shannon. The out half, 2 tries he ran in. 18 points in total. His second try was absolutely superb, running almost a full length of the pitch. So we've photos and reaction from Jack's big day, or big performance at Ireland, and hopefully he can repeat the trick when Wales come calling this Friday night again at Musgrave Park. Plenty in this week's sports section, Jack. Obviously the Cork teams were in action, so there was wins for the Cork hurlers, the Cork footballers, the Cork lady footballers and the Cork camogie team. So we have match reports and reaction from all of those. The under-21 championships kicked off too last weekend, so we have extensive reports from the Carbery and Muskerry under-21 championships. Jack Cahalan kicked 2-2 with Castlehaven, Big Clonakilty, and we have an interview with Jack Cahalan as well, a young man who's quite busy at the moment. He was listing off the amount of teams that he's involved with, and I counted 7 or 8 at least. So he's a dual star with a very busy schedule. As well as that, we have a very interesting piece by Tom Savage, who's from the Three Red Kings, the editor of the popular Munster Rugby fan site, where Tom is looking at the career of Darren Sweetenham. Darren, as we all know from Dawn, he's a former Cork hurler, former Dawny. He was probably the first of this current wave of West Cork people to kind of make it at Munster in the last couple of years. But his career seems to have stagnated a tiny bit, considering he made his Ireland debut a couple of years back. He's just been unlucky with injuries and so on. So it's actually a really, really good piece by Tom Savage just on Darren Sweetenham. how he feels he's progressing, what he feels his potential is, what he thinks is next for Darren. So it's well worth picking up the Star for that. Also, we have the match report from a huge West Cork League game last weekend when Dunmanway Town beat Trina Rangers in the Premier Division. I think it was Trina's first defeat in the Premier Division since 2017. Their first home defeat in the Premier Division since 2012. So it's a huge win for Dunmanway Town. And the Premier Division title race is really hotting up now. So with Dunmanway and Trina involved there, Betty the Hob went back top at the weekend. So worth checking out the Star this Thursday for that. Unfortunately, Jack, Baltimore are not going to win the West Cork League Championship this year. Kind of things didn't go too well against Spartak.
No, we were well beaten by Spartak Musgrove, who I think have qualified now or got promoted after beating us. They beat us 3-0. We were at home. I'm not one to make excuses, but I actually am one to make excuses, so I'm going to make some excuses. I know football season is back, so we were missing a few of our players, and all I could say after the game was I wish they'd wrap up the soccer season before the GAA starts, because then we'd have a great chance. But unfortunately, we just don't have the numbers to run the two sports. But we still have a League Cup semi-final to look forward to. And
you're still hoping to add your highlights reel. Obviously, your 65-yard goal there a couple of weeks ago, that was the talk of West Cork for a while.
Yeah, well, you know, if we get a good draw in the semi-final of the Divisional Cup, you never know. Anything could happen.
But no, plenty going on in this week's Southern Star Sports section that is in the shops from Thursday morning as usual. So again, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast this week. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Acast, Stitcher or wherever else you listen to our show.
3 pleases.